So here's Roman Polanski, who's taken a 13-year-old girl to Jack Nicholson's house, talked about sex, handed out champagne, given her a drug. Were you frightened at that point?
I like the girls of this age, and because the girls of that age, for some reason, like me.
Well, he asked, did I have a boyfriend? And I said yes. And then he asked if I ever had sex. And then he asked how many times.
Isn't that predatory?
Roman Polanski is a celebrated director who still works to this day. This past year, he has put out a new film despite the hate he receives from Hollywood. But the hate Roman has against him is warranted. He has been accused of disgusting crimes against young teen girls. Some of his victims are as young as 10 years old. But when Roman was caught and sentenced to prison, he fled the country and hasn't returned since. So let's get into it. So Roman Polanski is one of those Hollywood tales that I can't believe exists, because this actor turned director and producer did some heinous things in the States and he essentially got away with them. Let's talk about Roman and what led to him fleeing the United States so that he wasn't prosecuted for assaulting a young girl. The French-Polish filmmaker is known for directing the horror classic Rosemary's Baby, the first movie he made after moving to the United States from France. He also worked in the United Kingdom, where he had several other films, including Cul-de-sac and Repulsion. To be honest, I haven't seen a lot of his movies because I'm not that well versed in movies, but I've heard about his crimes. At one point, he was quoted saying, "Everybody wants to F young girls." By his own admission, Roman has always been drawn to girls in their teens. He met his current wife, Emanuela, when she was 19 and he was 52. In his autobiography, he speaks candidly of going to bed with 15-year-old girls as a grown man. And when he describes the girls, all between 16 and 19 years old, who visited him in the late 60s while he was grieving the death of his second wife, Sharon Tate, he rates that they were more beautiful and in a natural way than they would ever be again. I guess saying that like girls in their teens were like at their peak almost, and that's why he's attracted to them, which is so weird. Speaking of his second wife, Sharon was murdered in 1969, murdered, when she was heavily pregnant. And she was murdered by several members of the Manson family. What? However, the trauma that Roman suffered is of course no excuse for the horrific crimes he committed in the 70s against a 13-year-old girl named Samantha.
She was a young and beautiful actress, married to a famous Hollywood director and about to have their first child, until evil struck her down. Sharon Tate was just 26 years old and 8 months pregnant when she was killed by members of Charles Manson's cult.
5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski.
If you guys want a deeper dive about Sharon Tate, leave a comment below, but let's talk a little bit about Roman and what led up to his crimes. He continues to talk about young girls even though he knows that it's wrong, talking about them being fresher and more natural, and saying that they have the power in the situation. Quote, judges want to F young girls, juries want to F young girls. Everyone wants to F young girls. What the hell? The idea that the teenage girls might be children, which they usually are. I mean, it's like, until you're 18, there's only really 1 or 2 years, I guess, that you can be a teenager and a consenting adult, but not everyone wants to F them, Roman, and it doesn't seem to have occurred to him that this is wrong. And what's freaky is that the industry has supported him, and they continue to support him. He had a project come out this year. But back in 1976, Roman took an assignment from French Vogue that would allow him to explore his attraction to teenage girls. He would shoot a series of photographs about these girls, and he was quoted saying that he would show the girls as they really were were these days: sexy, pert, and thoroughly human. That's how he met his victim, Samantha. It was 1977, and she was a 13-year-old aspiring actress. Her older sister's boyfriend suggested that she might be a good subject for Roman's photo shoot. But Roman is clearly an animal who cannot hold back, and Samantha unfortunately was there at the wrong time, and this guy just took what he wanted, and it's sick.
Samantha Geimer had been suggested to Polanski by a friend of her family. He was photographing a number of models for Vogue Paris magazine. As Polanski told Clive James, the project was of special interest.
I found it quite an interesting enterprise because I like the girls of this age and because the girls of that age for some reason like me.
How delusional does this creepy old man have to be to think that these like 13, 14, 15-year-old girls like want to be with him? Like, excuse me, sir, get your head checked. And since then, Samantha has been brave and has opened up about what happened when she worked with Roman. They had a test shoot and he decided to violate her.
He was looking for young girls to model. So he called my mom and came over and met my mom and me, and we arranged, for him to come back and do a test shoot.
Roman photographed Samantha alone, without anyone there, so that she would react more naturally to the camera, he said. After taking a few pictures of her fully clothed, he instructed her to take off her top, and she complied. Samantha testified that she thought that these photos would only show her naked from the shoulders up. Roman wrote that she had nice breasts. I took pictures of her changing and topless. Ugh. His own admission. She wasn't even developed enough yet to be wearing a bra, which I think is like TMI, but just to show you how young she was. And a few months after the initial photo shoot, Roman took Samantha to Jack Nicholson's house to continue it. He photographed her drinking champagne and urged her to keep drinking for the pictures. After a while, he instructed her to take her top off once again. He gave her part of a Quaalude. Damn. She said that she must have been drunk or she wouldn't have taken it. I mean, keep in mind, she's like 13 years old, and urged her to go into the jacuzzi and take off her underwear. He photographed her for a while and then took off his own clothes and joined her.
On March the 10th, 1977, Polanski drove Samantha to Jack Nicholson's home while his friend was away. On the way, he asks what I think are inappropriate questions.
Yes, that was uncomfortable and strange.
Tell me what he asked.
Well, he asked, did I have a boyfriend? And I said yes. And then he asked if I ever had sex, which was like, okay, that's weird to ask me. And I'm like, yes, because I'm trying to be grown up. And then he asked how many times, which is weird.
On reading that, I would say that that was grooming.
I guess.
That is the definition of grooming. He met her when she was young. I mean, she was still young when the incident happened, but he met her a few months prior. He built some trust with her, took some photos of her, and when she was booking the big gig, he took it as an opportunity to push it too far. I mean, even hanging out alone with like a 13-year-old and drinking and like, where are the parents in this situation? I have a lot of questions. And Samantha wrote that she did not want to have sex, and apparently that was going to happen. She really couldn't get out of it. Samantha, disoriented and confused from the champagne and pills, faked an asthma attack to get out of the hot tub. She put her underwear back on, and Roman followed her into the house.
Yes, he had these pills, and so I took it, put a little piece of it, and then almost immediately realized oh my gosh, I've been drinking and I just took a pill.
So here's Roman Polanski, one of the most famous film producers in Hollywood, who's taken a 13-year-old girl to Jack Nicholson's house, talked about sex, handed out champagne, given her a drug. Isn't that predatory?
It's a really bad look for Roman and just really disgusting that a grown man would do this. According to Roman, this is what happened next. We dried ourselves off. She said she was feeling better. Then I very gently began to kiss and caress her. After this had gone on for some time, I led her over to the couch, and there was no doubt about her experience and lack of inhibition. She spread herself and I entered her. She wasn't unresponsive. What? She spread herself and I entered her? So he's just straight up about it.
Were you frightened at that point?
That's the moment. Then I realized something was wrong. I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. And I just knew then it was like, oh, this guy, like he wants to get his hands on me. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
This is what Samantha said in her testimony. When asked, what did you do when he said, let's go into the other room? She replied that she said, no, I think I better go home, because she was afraid. So then Samantha just went and sat down on the couch. They asked her, what were you afraid of? She said, him. He sat down beside me and asked if I was okay. What did you say to him? She said, no. What did he say? He goes, well, you'll be better. And I go, no, I won't. I have to go home. And then what happened then? He reached over and kissed me, and I was telling him, no, keep away. But I was kind of afraid of him because there was no one else there.
I was scared and confused and high. And so I just kind of didn't really know how to resist that besides say, I'd rather not know. And then when that didn't change his mind, I just didn't know what else to do. I was unprepared.
Indeed, I think you almost surrender because that seems to be the easiest option.
Yeah, well, I did. It was like, okay, he's doing this, and he's not. And I've said like, I'd rather not. No, let's please. I'd rather go home.
So Samantha felt like she didn't have a choice in that situation as a 13-year-old girl on these drugs and drunk. I don't really want to read the graphic details, but in the transcript, she explains how he did violate her, and he did in fact go all the way. After a while, he asked her when her last period was and whether she was on the pill. On learning that she wasn't, he said, would you want me to go in through your back? So he really, God, he said, what the hell? She said no, but according to her testimony, he ignored her and did do that anyways. When it was over, Samantha went out to the car and cried. Roman drove her home and told her not to tell anyone. Samantha did tell her boyfriend what happened. Her mother overheard and called the police, and then Roman was arrested. In March of 1977, Roman was charged with drugging and R-wording Samantha. And they got him on everything. The drugs, the, violating her in multiple different ways. Like every charge that he could get, he got.
In outrageous backroom deals concocted by the judge, Polanski pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, and was ordered to undergo 90 days psychiatric evaluation in prison.
Usually we don't see celebrities getting charged like this or actually having any type of punishment, but granted, he didn't get that much of a punishment for the type of crime he committed. When it came to the case, it seems like Samantha wasn't doing that great at defending herself because she admitted that she had, had intercourse before Roman, and she had taken like Quaaludes before as well, which I guess just like, I don't know, the jury maybe had some type of impression from that. I'm not sure. 3 days before Roman was supposed to be sentenced, I guess the district attorney invited him to an off-the-record meeting in his office and presented him a plea deal where he would go and get psychiatric evaluations, and they would be able to lessen his prison time if he were to kind of go this route that he's mentally ill, and that's why he did this. So as part of the plea bargain, Roman was ordered to undergo the psychiatric evaluation, and the court, for some bizarre reason, allowed the director to finish working on his current project, so he was able to fly to Europe to complete the remake of Hurricane. He did return to LA, completing just 42 of the 80 days of psychiatric evaluation, but Roman then learned that he was likely to be convicted, so he fled to London.
When Polanski was released after only 42 days and then photographed in Germany at a beer fest, there was a public outcry. Judge Rittenband, intent on maintaining a tough image, sought the advice of journalists and again tried to do a backroom deal for Polanski to serve more jail time. But in a move no one saw coming, Hollywood's most famous director fled the country.
So he literally ran away to another country. I mean, it sounds like a movie. He got in trouble. He was going to go to jail. He didn't want to, so he fled the country. And he lived like nothing happened. I mean, he truly did. He even did interviews after the fact, speaking about this publicly, not really ashamed at all.
You ran away, Roman. You ran away.
Well, I, as you say, ran away because I think that I was very unfortunate to have a judge who misused justice.
So Roman felt like he had an unfair judge. Even after getting this plea deal, he's like complaining about the judge because he doesn't want to do any time. After Roman met with his lawyer and learned that he could go to jail for much longer, he immediately got onto a plane and went to London and then flew to Paris, and he's not returned to the US since. Since then, he's continued working. He actually won an Oscar for Best Director. What the hell? But he did not attend the ceremony, of course. But in 2009, Roman traveled to Zurich to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award. He was detained at immigration and then placed into custody to await possible extradition to America. After he made bail, he was placed under house arrest in the Swiss chalet that he owned.
The 76-year-old director was arrested Saturday in Switzerland on his way to the Zurich Film Festival. He may now be extradited back to the U.S.
He was a fugitive. Well, now he's no longer a fugitive. He was arrested pursuant to a warrant issued by over 3 decades ago.
Polanski has lived in his native France for those past 3 decades, where authorities would not arrest him.
So the French will protect him, but the rest of the world isn't on Roman's side.
Polanski has usually been careful not to travel to countries that may send him back to the United States, but last week when the LA District Attorney's Office learned he was traveling to Zurich, they sent a warrant for his arrest, and Swiss authorities agreed to follow it.
And a lot of prominent celebrities in America have been outraged by his presence. A lot of people have signed a letter against him. Natalie Portman, we've got Penelope Cruz, we've got, actually, I don't know a lot of actors. I'm like, who else do I? David Lynch, Harrison Ford, a few different people. So at first it seemed like Roman was gonna finally face justice. But at the end, Switzerland took Roman's side and decided that they were not going to send him away there. He was set free. But in June, Samantha filed a request that the state drop the charges against Roman, probably because it's something that's haunting her and she just wants closure. But the judge denied this, so the state is going to pursue him as long as he's alive. Since then, Samantha has taken the time to tell her own story. She actually wrote this book, A Life in the Shadow of Roman Polanski, and this photo was actually taken by him. By the Creepazoid. She claims using the photo as that cover was part of her way to reclaim her story. I guess Samantha opens up about her settlement with Roman back in 1993. I guess they settled outside of court for him to pay her off, but he missed payments, which is not part of the settlement. And since then, other women have come forward. A British actress named Charlotte said that Roman harmed her in the worst possible way. In 1983, she was 16 and working on his movie Pirates. He took advantage of me, and I've lived with the effects of his behavior ever since it occurred. All I want is justice. Ooh. Charlotte claims that she was scared and ashamed to go to authorities after the assault. She said that she's coming forward now because the director's legal team is portraying his previous offense against a minor as an isolated incident when in fact it wasn't, and Charlotte is also a victim. Charlotte never shared the details of how he harmed her in the worst possible way, but that's what she's claiming. In 2017, another one of Roman's victims came forward. Her name is Robin M, and she claims that she was victimized by him in 1973 when she was 16 years old. And even though the statute of limitations has expired, she would be willing to testify in court if someone has a case against him. Another person in 2017 named Renee Langer came forward and accused Roman of R-wording her when she was 15 years old, and she claimed that Roman had contacted her through her modeling agency and promised her a role in one of his movies. She says she went to visit him and he R-worded her in his home. A few months later, he called and apologized and told her he wanted to cast her in his movie. He promised her that he would behave professionally towards her. Then after filming started, he got her alone and R-worded her again. And supposedly she told her boyfriend about this, and she's now coming forward because her parents are dead, so they can't be hurt by the news. Oh, that's so sad. That same year, a German actress filed a complaint alleging that she'd also been R-worded by Roman as a minor in 1972. The allegation did not result in any criminal charges because of the statute of limitations. Roman's lawyer called the allegations an absurd attempt to generate media attention. So he's calling these allegations BS. Another person, oh my gosh, so many. Valentine, who's now 62, described an alleged R-word and assault that she said happened at Roman's home in at a Swiss ski resort back in 1975. She actually claims that she thought she was going to die. She claims that Roman forced her to swallow a pill during the assault, and that he later approached her to apologize and to extract a promise of her silence. His lawyers, of course, denied everything and claims that they're not going to participate in a media trial, and they're not going to address these allegations because they're saying they're not true. But there are so many allegations against this man at this point that where there's smoke, there's probably some fire. In 2021, Vicky Morgan's former boyfriend claimed that Roman had R-worded Morgan in the 80s, but Morgan did not come forward herself because she was murdered in 1983. Marie Lease in 2021 came forward about her claims that in 1975, Roman had R-worded her sister. Her sister had passed away in 2005 and never really told the story herself, so similar to the last victim. One of the most sick accusations is from someone who claims that Roman harmed them when they were 10 years old. Bernard claims that she was 10 years old and a child model in 1975. Roman took her to a deserted beach for a modeling shoot, and he had her remove her clothes as he photographed her. She claims that he molested her. I feel like I wasn't doing the right thing by being quiet, and I needed to speak out. I wanted him to be exposed so he cannot carry on this behavior. So there are a lot of people inspired by Samantha to speak out. But what's weird, and you probably didn't expect this, is that Samantha kind of switched up. Remember how I told you that she was pleading the case that he should be freed and the charges should be dropped, even though the judge denied this? Well, she posted a picture with him, which I think is so bizarre that she's with this man after writing a book and doing everything. And like, it's just like, I'm speechless. I'm usually not speechless like this. I'm speechless. So comment below what you guys think. Just taking a moment to like see this dynamic, because this is her like abuser. Now she's here like defending him, and everyone's a little bit confused.
Geimer arriving with her husband today after flying in from Hawaii. She is helping make the case this time that Polanski has served his time and should not be punished further.
I don't know what kind of payment plan Samantha may be on, or maybe this is part of her healing. I have no idea, but she couldn't make the case. The judge decided that he deserves justice one day whenever they can get him. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. This is a lot to unpack, and I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Bye, guys.